32, and I thought my dad's 60th birthday party would be a night to remember for all the right reasons. But then my brother stormed in late and drunk, clutching a beer like it was his lifeline. Before I could process it, he raised his glass, smirked, and said, "You're such a failure." Then he tossed the beer right at me. The cold liquid splashed onto my dress, my face dripping down as the room went dead silent. My mom rushed to him, grabbing his arm, muttering, "It wasn't intentional." Oh, it was intentional. Everyone knew it. I simply smiled, slowly wiped the icy beer off my face, and quietly returned to the party as if nothing had happened. But inside, I had already decided to act. That night, I did something that would change everything in ways no one could have predicted. The next morning, a short message appeared, enough to leave the whole family stunned. The game had only just begun. Before we dive into my story, tell me, what time is it where you are watching this, and which city are you in? I want to know just how far my story has traveled. The coffee in my mug was cold, but I barely noticed, staring at my laptop screen in our Albuquerque kitchen. I was trying to polish a pitch for a national magazine, a freelance contract that could finally get my name out there beyond local news. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but my mind was elsewhere. My brother Caleb had already blown up my phone with a text, his words sharp and demanding. "You canceled my lease. Fix it, Madeline." I'm not joking. No mention of his outburst last night, no hint of regret. Just the same entitlement I'd dealt with for years. I set the phone down, my chest tight, trying to push his words out of my head. I'd been propping Caleb up forever. His downtown apartment, I paid the rent when he swore he'd land a steady gig. His credit card debts, I cleared them after he blew his savings on music gear he never touched. Last month, he asked for $4,000 for some tour with his band, claiming it was his big break. I said no, tired of funding his empty promises. He didn't like that, and my parents backed him up. My mom always called after his messes, insisting he was trying his best. My dad stayed quiet, but his silence felt like agreement. They expected me to keep fixing things, to keep saying yes. But last night, changed that. My phone buzzed again, a voicemail from my mom. I played it, her voice soft but pressing, cutting through the quiet morning. "Madeline, Caleb's really struggling. He's trying so hard to make it work. Can you just talk to him?" I clenched my jaw, the same tired excuse. Justin, my husband, walked in from the garage, a toolbox in hand from his latest project. He heard the voicemail and shook his head. "She's already at it," he said, setting the toolbox on the counter. "Does she even care what he pulled?" I didn't answer, my eyes fixed on the phone. Justin had been calling out Caleb's behavior for years, telling me my family leaned on me too much. I tried to focus on my pitch again, the cursor blinking on my screen. This contract was my shot at something bigger, national stories, a real byline. But Caleb's text kept burning in my mind. "Fix it, Madeline." Like I was the one who broke his life. I thought about all the times I'd bailed him out, paying his phone bill when it got cut off, covering studio time he skipped, even replacing a guitar he pawned for cash. He never thanked me, just acted like I owed him. My mom's voicemail echoed her words, twisting the knife. She didn't see the years I'd carried him, only his struggle now. Another buzz pulled me out of my thoughts. An email from a colleague at the paper, the subject line, vague. "You see this?" I opened it, expecting notes on my pitch. Instead, it was a screenshot from a local Facebook group, a post about someone in town not being who they seem. No names, but it hit me like a warning. I told myself I was overthinking it, that it couldn't be about me. Caleb's text was still unanswered, his anger practically pulsing through the screen. I looked up at Justin, now pouring himself coffee. "He's not going to stop," I said, my voice low. He nodded, his eyes steady. "You don't owe him anything," he said. "Not after what he did." He was right, but the weight of my family's expectations pressed harder than ever. I didn't know then that Caleb was already setting up something worse, something that could hit me where it hurt most. But as I closed my laptop and stared at my phone, I knew I wasn't backing down. The afternoon sun poured in harshly, casting sharp shadows across my living room. I was still reeling from Caleb's morning text, his demand to fix the lease I'd canceled, when my phone rang. His name glared on the screen. I hesitated, my thumb hovering, but I picked up, bracing myself. "You think you can just cut me off like that?" Caleb's voice was sharp, slurring slightly, like he'd been drinking again. "You're going to regret this, Madeline. I'll make sure everyone sees you for who you are." The threat hung in the air, heavy and vague, before he hung up. I stared at the phone, my pulse racing, his words echoing in my head. What did he mean by everyone? I barely had time to process when the doorbell rang. Justin, my husband, was at the kitchen table scrolling through his phone, but he looked up, his brow furrowed. "You expecting someone?" he asked. I shook my head and opened the door to find my mom standing there, her face tight with worry. She didn't wait for an invitation, stepping inside and launching in. "Madeline, why are you doing this to Caleb?" she said, her voice low but sharp. "He's panicking. He got a notice to vacate his apartment. You know he's trying to get his music career off the ground. Why can't you just help him?" I stood there, stunned, my hands clenching at my sides. She didn't mention what Caleb had done, didn't acknowledge how he'd humiliated me. It was always about him. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "He's not my responsibility," I said. My mom's eyes widened like I'd said something unthinkable. "He's your brother," she shot back. "He's struggling. You've always been the strong one. Can't you see he needs you?" Justin stood up, his chair scraping the floor. "She's done enough," he said, his tone firm but calm. My mom ignored him, her gaze locked on me, waiting for me to cave, like I always had. I didn't. I just pointed to the door, my throat tight. She left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. Back at my laptop, I tried to refocus on my magazine pitch, the one that could change my career. I was halfway through a sentence when an email popped up from my editor at the paper. The subject line stopped me cold: "Contract concerns." I opened it, my heart sinking. "Madeline, we need to discuss your freelance contract," it read. "There's been some chatter online about financial issues tied to your name. The magazine's concerned about credibility. Can we talk?" My stomach dropped. Financial issues? I hadn't missed a bill in years, hadn't taken a loan since college. My mind flashed to Caleb's threat: "Everyone sees you for who you are," and that screenshot from my colleague this morning, the vague post about someone in town. I opened Facebook, scrolling through the local group my colleague had mentioned. There was nothing new, just the same cryptic post about someone not being who they seem. No names, no details, but it felt like a knife aimed at me. I thought about Caleb, his anger, his threat. Was he behind this? I clicked through his profile, but it was locked down, no recent posts visible. My fingers shook as I typed a quick reply to my editor, promising to clear things up. Justin came over, looking at my screen. "What's going on?" he asked. I showed him the email, my voice barely steady. "I think Caleb's trying to sabotage me," I said. He frowned, pulling me into a hug. "We'll figure it out," he said. "He's not going to win this." I closed my laptop, my mind racing. Caleb's threat wasn't just empty words, it was a promise to hit me where it hurt my career. I didn't have proof yet, but the pieces were falling into place. My mom's visit, her blind defense of him, only made it worse. The Albuquerque sky was turning dark as I sat on the couch. My laptop open, still rattled from my mom's visit, and that email from my editor. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Brooke, my friend and colleague at the paper. "Call me. Found something you need to see it, read." My heart sank. I dialed her number and she didn't waste time. "Madeline, check the local Facebook group. Caleb posted something about you," she said, her voice tight. She sent me a screenshot, and there it was, a post from Caleb in the Albuquerque community group, liked by a dozen people. "Some people act like they've got it all together, but they're drowning in debt. Don't trust the facade," it read. No names, but the timing, the jab, it was aimed at me. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. This wasn't just a vague post anymore. It was a deliberate hit at my reputation. As a journalist, my credibility was everything, and that magazine contract I was chasing depended on it. Caleb knew that. He'd seen me work late nights, pitch after pitch to build my career. And now he was trying to tear it down just because I'd stopped funding his life. I forwarded the screenshot to Justin, my husband, who was in the kitchen grabbing a glass of water. He read it, his jaw tightening. "He's out of line," he said, sitting beside me. "This could hurt your contract. We need to shut this down." I nodded, my mind racing. I logged into the bank portal, my fingers moving on instinct. Caleb's credit card, the one I'd added him to years ago to help him out, was still active. He'd been charging meals, gas, even bar tabs on it, never paying a dime. I froze the card, cutting him off completely. It felt like a small victory, but it wasn't enough. Caleb's post was already out there spreading doubt about me. I couldn't let it sit. Justin leaned over, looking at the screenshot again. "You should report this to the group admins," he said. "And maybe the band he's been begging gigs from. They need to know who they're dealing with." I hadn't thought of that, but it made sense. Caleb's music career was his only leverage, and if he was playing dirty, I wasn't going to play nice either. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a text from my mom. "Madeline, you're being too hard on Caleb," it read. "He's got nowhere to go now. Why can't you help him?" I groaned, tossing the phone onto the couch. Not 5 minutes later, another text came in, this time from my cousin Amy. "Heard about Caleb's apartment? You really cut him off? That's harsh." Then another from my aunt. "Family sticks together, Madeline. Don't push him away." I stared at the messages, my blood boiling. None of them mentioned Caleb's post, his lies, or how he'd tried to ruin me. It was all on me, like always, to fix his mess. Justin read the texts over my shoulder, shaking his head. "They're ganging up on you," he said. "You don't deserve this." We sat down at the kitchen table. My laptop opened, the Facebook post still glaring at me. Justin grabbed a notepad, his engineer brain kicking in. "Let's make a plan," he said. "First you reply to your editor, explain, this is a personal attack, not truth. Then we draft a message to the band's manager. Caleb's been bragging about that gig for weeks. Let's see how they feel about his lies." I nodded, feeling a spark of clarity. I started typing an email to my editor, keeping it professional but firm, promising to clear up any doubts about my finances. Then I found the contact for Caleb's band manager, ready to lay out what he'd done. I wasn't going to let his lies destroy my career, not when I'd worked so hard to build it. As I hit send on the email, another message from my mom popped up. "Caleb's devastated," it said. "Please just talk to him." I didn't reply. I looked at Justin, his eyes steady, and knew we were in this together. Caleb thought he could break me, but he was about to learn how wrong he was. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach, the weight of Caleb's Facebook post still pressing on me. I sat at my desk in our Albuquerque home, the quiet hum of the city outside doing little to calm my nerves. Last night, with Justin's help, I'd sent an email to my editor explaining the post was a personal attack, not truth. Then I'd contacted the manager of Caleb's band, attaching the screenshot Brooke had sent me. I laid out how Caleb was spreading lies about me online, undermining my reputation. I didn't ask them to drop him, I just let the truth speak for itself. By noon, I got a reply from the manager. "We take this seriously. Caleb's out of the gig." I stared at the email, a mix of relief and guilt washing over me. His music was all he had left, and I'd just taken it away. My phone rang, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was my dad, his name flashing on the screen. I hesitated, my thumb hovering, but I picked up. His voice was calm, almost too calm, like he was choosing his words carefully. "Madeline, I heard about Caleb's apartment, and now his band dropped him," he said. "Do you want to keep pushing your brother away like this? He's family. We're all we've got." His words hit hard, not because they were harsh, but because they weren't. My dad rarely got involved, always staying on the sidelines while my mom fought Caleb's battles. Hearing him now asking if I wanted to lose my family made my chest tighten. I took a deep breath. my voice steady but cold. "He made his choice, Dad," I said. "I'm not helping him anymore." There was a long pause, then a quiet sigh before he hung up. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Justin was at work, but I could still hear his voice from last night urging me to stand my ground. He'd been right about everything: my family's expectations, Caleb's lies. I'd spent years carrying Caleb, thinking it was my job as the older sister. But after that post, after he tried to ruin my career, I was done. I opened my laptop, checking my emails to distract myself, when a new message popped up. It was from Caleb, the subject line blank. I braced myself and clicked. "Madeline, I know you saw the post," it read. "I was just venting. Things got out of hand. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we talk? I need help getting back on track. Not a single sorry. Not even a hint of regret. Just more excuses. More demands." He admitted to the post but spun it like it was a misunderstanding, like I was the one overreacting. I could almost hear his voice, that same entitled tone he'd used for years, expecting me to clean up his mess. I closed the email, my hands shaking with anger. He thought he could talk his way out of this like always, but I wasn't falling for it. I stood up, pacing the living room, trying to shake the frustration. Caleb's email wasn't an apology. It was a negotiation, a way to pull me back into his chaos. I thought about my dad's call, his quiet plea for family. For years, I'd been the one holding everything together, the one who paid for, gave fixed. But Caleb's post wasn't just a jab, it was a betrayal, one that could have cost me my career. I wasn't going to let him off the hook. It had been a few days since Caleb's email, where he admitted to spreading lies about me, but tried to brush it off as a misunderstanding. His words still stung, a reminder of how far he'd gone to hurt me. My career as a journalist was everything I'd worked for, every late night, every pitch, and I wasn't going to let his betrayal take it away. I was about to dive back into my magazine pitch when an email from Brooke, my friend and colleague, popped up. The subject line was blunt. "Got what you need." I opened it, my pulse quickening. Brooke had been relentless, digging into the claims Caleb made online about my supposed debts. She'd reached out to a contact at my bank, and attached to her email was a clean official statement. No outstanding loans, no missed payments, nothing to suggest I was drowning in debt. It was exactly what I needed to shut down his lies. But Brooke didn't stop there. She reminded me of Caleb's email, the one where he admitted to posting the rumors. "Send this with the statement," she wrote. "It ties him to the post and proves it's all fake." I leaned back, a spark of clarity cutting through the anger. She was right. This wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about showing exactly who was behind the attack. I drafted an email to my editor at the paper, my fingers moving with purpose. "The online claims about my finances are false," I wrote. "Attached is a bank statement confirming my accounts are clean, along with an admission from the person who posted the rumors." I included Caleb's email, careful not to linger on its contents, just letting it speak for itself. It wasn't an apology, he'd made sure of that, but it was enough to prove he'd lied. I'd spent years keeping my finances in order, building a reputation I could stand behind. Caleb's post had tried to tear that down, but I wasn't going to let it. I hit send, my heart pounding, and waited. A few hours later, my editor replied. "Thank you, Madeline," the email read. "We've reviewed your documentation and the admission. The magazine is satisfied and your contract is secure. Let's schedule a call to finalize the project details." I stared at the screen, a wave of relief crashing over me. The contract, the one I'd poured everything into, was mine again. My name, my credibility was intact. I closed my laptop, a quiet sense of triumph settling in. Caleb had tried to ruin me, but his lies had fallen apart under the weight of the truth. Justin, my husband, came home from work, his keys jingling as he walked into the kitchen. I showed him the editor's email, and his face lit up with a grin. "You nailed it," he said, pulling me into a hug. "He thought he could break you, but you turned it around." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. For years, I'd been the one holding things together, cleaning up Caleb's messes, thinking it was my job as the older sister. I'd paid his bills, covered his failures, all while he took it for granted. But that post, those lies, were a line he couldn't uncross. I wasn't just protecting my career, I was protecting myself. It had been over a week since the chaos started, and with my magazine contract secured, I was ready to move forward. I sat at my desk finalizing notes for the magazine project when I opened my phone and saw a flurry of notifications from the local Facebook group where Caleb had posted his lies. The comments had turned against him. Someone had shared the band manager's statement about why Caleb was dropped his lies about me, had gotten around, and people weren't holding back. Spreading rumors about family. That slow one comment read. Another called him out for dragging my name through the mud. The group full of locals and musicians was tearing into him, his credibility in the Albuquerque music scene shredded. I scrolled through, my heart pounding, not with guilt, but with a strange sense of justice. Caleb had tried to ruin me, and now his own actions were biting back. I closed the app, my resolve hardening. I'd heard through a colleague that Caleb had moved back to my parents' house, his plans for a music career stalled. My mom and dad had taken him in, as they always did, giving him a room to crash in while he figured things out. I could picture him there, surrounded by the same boxes I'd once helped him pack, still expecting someone to bail him out. But that someone wasn't going to be me. I'd cut him off his apartment, his credit card, his chances to lean on me. I wasn't just done helping, I was done with him entirely. No more calls, no more texts, no more chances. I blocked his number. My fingers steady and felt a weight lift. Justin, my husband, walked in, his work bag slung over his shoulder. I showed him the Facebook comments and he raised an eyebrow, a small smile tugging at his lips. "He's getting what he deserves," he said, sitting beside me. "You did the right thing, standing your ground." I nodded, my throat tight with a mix of relief and finality. Justin had been my rock through all of this, seeing through Caleb's chaos when I was still caught in family guilt. With him by my side, I felt ready to let go of the past and focus on what mattered. I turned back to my laptop, diving into the magazine project with a new sense of purpose. The editor had scheduled a call to discuss my first draft, and I was already outlining ideas for a feature that could make waves. My career was mine again, stronger than ever, and I wasn't going to waste it. I thought about the years I'd spent carrying Caleb, believing it was my job to keep him afloat. Every bill I'd paid, every mistake I'd covered had been a brick in a wall I didn't even realize I was building. His betrayal, those lies about my finances, had torn that wall down, and I wasn't rebuilding it. I stood up, pacing the living room, my mind clear, but heavy with the truth. Family was supposed to mean something, but Caleb had shown me it didn't have to mean everything. My parents might never understand, might always see me as the one who broke things by refusing to help. But I wasn't the one who broke this. Caleb's choices, his lies, his entitlement had consequences, and for the first time, I wasn't shielding him from them. I looked out the window at the fading light, feeling a quiet strength. I'd fought for my name, my career, and I'd won. Justin joined me, his hand resting on my shoulder. "You're free now," he said, his voice soft but certain. I nodded, a small smile breaking through. I was free not just from Caleb, but from the role I'd been forced into for years. The lesson was hard-earned but clear. Setting boundaries isn't just about protecting your career or your name, it's about protecting yourself. Caleb's lies had cost him his reputation, his independence, and any chance of my help. I wasn't going back. My future was with Justin, with my work, with the life I'd built on my own terms. And that was enough.